G'day legends, I hope that you're really well. Now, there's been a lot happen today, so we're going to go over some claims, we're going to have a look at the maps, and we're going to talk about some other news, what this means, and we'll just jump right in. So once again, we've seen crossings from the Russian Legion into Belgorod. Now, the DRG is what it's being called, but this is the Deep Reconnaissance Group. So they'll often say like the Ukrainian or the Russian DRG, just Deep Recon Group. Military love acronyms, I don't know why. I'm used to them half the time, even ones that I should know and that I've used for years and years and years. I need to look up, like, what exactly is that? One of the big things is the Polish volunteers have taken part in these crossings, and they can do because they're not part of the Polish military. Now, we know many Poles have volunteered to fight alongside Ukraine throughout this war, from the very beginning until now. Now, what success and how deep did these push? Well, we don't really know, and there's limited information and maps around what actually happened, but we will look at these, trust me. And there's a lot of mixed reports about this incursion which has been taking place over the last couple of days, but this does seem to be more heavily armed than the previous ones that we have seen, as we have seen videos of tanks with Ukrainian flags on these as well. But before we go over the maps and some other stuff in this, we need to go over the escalation that happened throughout today, and this has just been absolutely wild. So from the RDK, who is the Russian Legion, and then the Belgorod governor Gladkov. So we're going to talk about this and the negotiation for a prisoner swap, where the RDK has summoned the Belgorod governor Gladkov. Now, some of the names in this, I think, are off in either translation or the way I've been told it, how this went down, but you're just going to have to go with me. So the commander here of the Russian Volunteer Corps and the representative of the Freedom of Russian Legion. Remember that there are two of these. There's the Legion and the Volunteer Corps as well, and both very interesting backgrounds on that, and we've broken that down before. Now we see prisoners. So we have a prisoner standing here and also a prisoner who is injured here as well. This guy states where he's from and who he is. And this guy here, who's seemingly injured, has a space blanket over the top of him that looks like a cannula IV in his arm. Now, this is space blanket. People say, well, there's silver. There can be silver siding, gold outside. It doesn't matter. It's just a space blanket. I don't know why that was such a topic of discussion for people. Being that it's an Orthodox holiday, and then you'll see from here he proposes them to meet in a church unarmed for some time in exchange.
Просто на возможность пообщаться с вами о судьбах России, о той ненужной кровопролитной войне, которая ведется уже 1,5 года, а теперь она уже ведется на территории нашей с вами Родины, на территории вашей Белгородской области. Поэтому сегодня до 17:00 у вас есть уникальная возможность пообщаться с нами и забрать 2 граждан Российской Федерации, простых солдат, которых вы, ваше политическое руководство отправили
at 5 p.m. we want to get together and talk with these guys here and talk about, I guess, the future of Belgorod, as we've seen this getting shelled again and again. We're going to go over that more and more as well. In social media, being social media, no matter if it's in wartime or peacetime, the governor actually responded. So here is the response.
Здравствуйте, дорогие друзья. Обращаюсь к жителям Белгородской области, к россиянам, которые иногда смотрят мои видеосообщения. Увидел обращение подлецов, негодяев, убийц и фашистов, которые якобы хотят встречи со мной, предлагая разговор на пленных. На самом деле зашли с ДРГ. Идет бой сейчас. Я надеюсь, что они все будут уничтожены. По-другому не может быть по определению. Каждый день от рук этих фашистов погибают мирные жители, в том числе и в Белгородской области. Хороним уже каждый день. Искалеченные дети, убитые старики. Вот что остается после их рук. Единственное, что останавливает меня от переговоров с ними, это наши пацаны, которые находятся в их руках. Скорее всего, они их убили. Как мне тяжело было это говорить. Но если они живые, с 17 до 18, МАП Шебекина гарантирует безопасность. Все.
So he does say here that if they are alive, then from 5 till 6 p.m, that he will be at the automobile checkpoint in Shebekino, which is where we've seen most of the fighting. And some of the times we talk about where the fighting is areas just around that as well. that it's looking like he's taking them up on the claim. Now, this was released on the official Legion telegram as well. Quite predictably, Mr. Gladkov did not come to pick up ordinary Russian soldiers. The whole of the Order of Courage did not have enough courage. By the way, there are much more prisoners, but neither the military nor civilian leadership is interested in their fate. Only Yevgeny Prigozhin showed courage and declared his readiness to take part in the negotiations. Now, I don't actually have Prigozhin's side of it. I can't find that bit, but here is the later video that showed when they said that Gladkov did not arrive, and then this is the video seemingly with the same soldier here. They did not consider, and pushing into the idea that you want to sell around the leadership here as well. So, proof of life, saying that, you said you've killed them, well, here's proof of life that they're not. And that in that hours of time, that then more have been taken. So, here is the injured guy we saw from before.
В отличие от господина Гладкова, Евгений Викторович Пригожин как раз отнюдь нашел в себе смелость и был готов пойти на наши условия.
So saying that Prigozhin was ready, but Gladkov was not, and undermining the positions of authority here as well. Now, if anyone's listened to me talking about asymmetric warfare, undermining positions of power in areas is one of the big things you need to do as well when you're a small force fighting a big one through guerrilla asymmetric warfare.
Не контролирует ситуацию в регионе, не знает, сколько пленных ваших пацанов находится в нашем плену.
To say that the governor does not control the situation in the region, that there's going to be more captivities as well. They want to communicate all the way up through to Moscow. So saying as well that these guys, instead of going, staying on that side, getting given back to the Russians, that now they will be transferred back to Ukraine as a POW. Now, many have pointed out the authenticity of these videos, and they do claim that the RDK never arrived at the position either. But the thing is, for the use of this, it doesn't matter. Either way, the level of the Legion, the RDK, has been seen, for the PR, has been achieved. This has gone viral absolutely everywhere, undermined the leadership in that area, and conducted another successful guerrilla warfare operation. From what I'm being seeing, these operations are just a distractionary operation away from other crossings that deploy supporting forces for partisans to work inside Russia in asymmetrical or guerrilla warfare. Now, this is to, we have seen many partisan operations happening throughout Russia and throughout occupied territory of Ukraine. IEDs under train lines, things given to people, things like this, as well as a lot of information. And I'm being told that only the bits you see is just the tip of the iceberg of how that is actually happening. And that is crucial to asymmetric warfare. And people are saying that this, because it, strikes a chord and all eyes look somewhere else, that it's distraction from other things. And it has the added benefits of a massive PR win for Ukraine, and as well it takes other forces away from areas in Russia to then deploy them along security of the border, opening the border up another 1,600 kilometres, being 1,000 miles or around about that as well. Now, if you want to see a full breakdown of how a much smaller force can defeat a larger one using asymmetrical warfare, which is basically guerrilla warfare, I'll link a video below that I've done of a breakdown of that. Now, some people have also pointed that this could be an attempt to make some sort of demilitarised zone as sort of a 30-kilometre artillery buffer on the border for both Ukraine and Russia. Now, let's have a look at some maps and see what is what. This gentleman here, who works for the Kiev Post, I should say, it's a very Ukrainian-sided, has shared a map that I believe that he was probably the first one to share it. At least he's where I first saw it, and this has just been shared everywhere. Already at least 4 towns have come under control of the RDK and the Legion of Free Russia. The Kremlin does not control these territories. There are battles for more, being these regions. Long live the Belgorod People's Republic. So, this is then the map here, showing a large amount of area. Now, I just want to show you exactly where we are looking. So, I have the deep state map here. Now, if you're wondering about the other areas of the front line, very little else has actually changed. But we're talking about this Belgorod Oblast, and here we've got the Kursk and the Bryansk Oblast. And we saw another crossing into Bryansk earlier this year, but we're coming in here into Belgorod. And already you can see Shebekino in here, and this is Belgorod. So we're talking around this region here. And if you line up where the border line looks, if I can zoom out, where this borderline looks, this is this area here as well. Now, you can't see the roads on the deep state. You can only see main ones. So I've got a Google map of this as well. And we're just going to line up the extent of what this journalist from Ukraine, from the Kiev Post, is actually saying. So he's saying, and this is really the only map of this, the deep state, the ISW, those maps aren't showing anything. So let's just have a look on this. Now, what we are going to do is I've translated this across, although it hasn't translated greatly, but let's just go with it, and we should get an idea of what it is. So what we do is we line up where this border looks similar. So we see it dip down into the south and come up onto a sharp right angle, which is right over in this region. So this thing, it comes right up into here. And then we see this crossroad. So the grey zone comes up to the north of this crossroad. And then as well, we see it come up north of where this road splits in two. So it's drawn up through, up through here, then up through into here, and then right across into this region here, and down somewhere into here. So this is a big area, and let's just see if I can actually draw this onto the map. Across somewhere in here, and then where are we on the far west? Somewhere down into here. So this region here. Now, of course, I will say it is different because it's showing controlled in the green and the grey zone area too. But that is a large area. And from the geolocated stuff, every other stuff, I can't really see this map being similar to other ones I've seen. Now, we also have, and I like to compare maps, we have the Rybar Russian sources as well from today that's been released. And it doesn't show any of this controlled territory. So where we're talking about is in this region here, and this one's not as easy to line up because it is far more zoomed out. But this is Shebekino in here, which Shebekino is in this region here, and it's not showing any is actually under control. So it is showing just a vastly different picture. Now, am I saying to believe one and not the other? No, I'm not. But both are making pretty big, bold claims and haven't really backed up much. Rybar has not backed up that all that area is under control, and the gentleman on the left has not backed up any of that region is under control of the Ukrainian forces either. So this is how the informational space and the informational war continue to roll, and that's how it works. Now, there is also more claim as well that in this area here in Staroseli, which is a far way from where we are looking is down in here. This is the region in here we are looking, that there was another border incursion up here. So can I verify that? Not at all, but you can see how far away this is from there. And we know also there's been a lot of shelling in the Belgorod region too, coming out of Ukraine and coming into Ukraine. So both ways, there's been a lot of shelling and a lot of damage. Now, this is from a Russian sources paper as well. In just one day, the armed force of Ukraine fired 569 shells in the Belgorod region. And people always ask, why do you say this is from Russian sources, this is from Ukraine sources? Because you should see that there are narratives here. We have this journalist sharing this map, and we have then these journalists on the other side sharing these things. So you need to take everything I believe with a little bit of a grain of salt, including people like me. Take guys like me say the internet with a grain of salt. Now, almost all of them are Shebekino. Over the past day, the armed forces of Ukraine fired 519 shells in the Shebekensky urban district at the governor of Belgorod region, Gladkov, who we just spoke about before. In total, 569 ammunition fell in the region as a result of a targeted attack by the Ukrainian army on the homes of civilians. 2 women were killed and 2 more were injured in Shebekino, and as everyone's, the armed forces of Ukraine are destroying the administrative complexes. So it goes on from there. But I need to say as well, any shelling of civilians anywhere is just a no-go. It is a terrible thing. Now, the Legion have said to go in shelters, whatever, but at the end of the day, there are civilian areas that have been hit, and many people will say, well, that is, just payback for the civilian areas hit by Russia. When it comes to civilians and civilians in a conflict, in warfare with soldiers, yeah, I believe if they shell you, shell them, give them hell, fucking go for it. But civilians, non-combatants, it is not an eye for an eye. If Russia fires a missile into Kyiv and flattens a civilian building, which I have seen, that doesn't then give the right, and no one should be claiming what we need to do is go flatten a building in Moscow. I don't believe that is a good way to think about humanity as a whole. If you said, because that happened, let's flatten Putin's house, whatever, people can get on board with that. But I think the eye for an eye thing when talking about civilians is just unfair. So here are some footage that has been geolocated inside Shebekino as well of the damage from some of this shelling. So you have these destroyed areas here, and you and I have looked over some footage before of buildings on fire around here as well. And we know there's been many fires around this region. Now, just because I forgot it before, this was a statement by the Russian volunteers' official telegram as well regarding Polish volunteers. So, official statement of the RDK regarding fighters of the Polish Volunteer Corps, the PDK. Our comrades in arms from Poland have indeed been fighting with us shoulder to shoulder for the freedom and independence of Ukraine for several months. We have already managed to jointly carry out a number of operations in Orakhovsky and Zaporizhzhia and Bakhmut regions. The guys showed themselves perfectly and showed a high level of motivation and preparation. As for the hostilities on the territory of the Russian Federation, the MPK fighters provide a convoy of prisoners, military and medical logistics. But only within the state border of Ukraine. Despite such restrictions, we still sincerely thank them for their invaluable contribution to the common cause and always include them in our planning and share our trophies with them. The RDK fighters are sincerely grateful to the people of Poland for their brave warriors in this war. Now, there has been a number of footage come out as well that is said to be in areas that which then geolocation groups have gone and said, well, this is probably recent, this is probably in this region, but where you said it is, we can't find any of those regions. And I shared a bit of that on my Telegram as well, with areas showing fighting, and then geolocated groups gone, well, if you say it's in this town, we can't. We've looked all through this town on Google Maps and we can't find it. So again, just take everything with a grain of salt. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but it's difficult. But there's definitely a lot of street-to-street fighting going on. As well, we have some statements from the Russian sources about what is happening here as well. So from Kadyrov and some other sources. But let's go over this source as well, which was from the original maps, like the Wagner Group maps were coming out as well on this page. So noise around Belgorod region. I returned from task, went to the Telegram and was surprised how much noise the enemy managed to make in the Belgorod region. Everyone just writes about it practically, lying with each other. And most importantly, in the end, it's not clear what happened. Did the RDK enter the inhabitant or something else continues? They're scattered, moved away while trying to cross. That last bit, we'll get to that in a sec, why it's in quotation marks. I really don't understand very well. I think many readers on Telegram too. Here in Zaporizhzhia, it is clear there was an attempt to break through. Footage with the burned Ukrainian equipment has already been posted, and we'll talk about that as well. Then he continues, Belgorod region on the agenda, I feel, is far from the last time. The enemy skillfully fills our information space with what he wants. So what, for example, is the problem during the day if the artillery strikes are carried out to give shots of objective control where you can see how the enemy scatters and is discarded? Or what is the problem for the military to record a short, intelligible video on the situation in order to stop the spread of false information and more of a panic? They are not up for it. Do they complete tasks? How did it happen? You need to work with your people. There are special people for this, and whom is the most important task? And these are not bloggers, these are not These are not bloggers at military correspondents who scrap up information from their sources, and it doesn't always work out the way it should. It is necessary that there be at least something official during the day in addition to Gladkov, who is doing well. So saying that, the Russian side need to release more of exactly what happened. Go to these areas and say, hey, look, I'm here and no one's here. Things like that. So sort of calling out the own side here as well. Now, from the statement we saw in the first bit, so from the Ministry of Defence of the Russian Federation, the statement was, our units detected an attempt by the DRG, the Deep Reconnaissance Group of Ukrainian terrorists, to cross the river in Novia, this Belgorod region. The Russian Defence Ministry reports an artillery strike was inflicted on the enemy and the enemy was scattered and retreated. So what the other channel then was talking about. Kadyrov has jumped then on this as well. This is from his official channel. I'm watching the situation in the Belgorod region. I'm worried. The Supreme Commander, of course, knows better. But I would like to remind you that the terrorists who invaded the Belgorod region could be dealt with by the forces of Chechen units. I say this not just like that, and I will explain. In order to eliminate a bandit group on Russian territory without consequences for the civilian population and infrastructure, special knowledge and training are required. Here we need to not only military experience, but also anti-terrorist experience. Such training is possessed by Chechen fighters who have already had experience in clearing the republic from the bandit underground in the forest and urban areas, as well as experience of liberating almost 4 dozen settlements in the LDNR, Luhansk and Donetsk, including Mariupol, where they entered into a battle with enemy outnumbered. These are regiments and battalions of the National Guard of the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation and the police, in particular the Special Police Regiment, named after hero of Russia Kadyrov, and the Ministry of Internal Affairs for the Chechen Republic, headed by the hero of Russia, Commander Zamir Shaliyev. So then he continues on here. The total number of Chechen fighters in battalions and regiments of power and military structures exceeds 70,000 people. That's 3 armies. All units were trained at the Russian University of Special Forces, equipped with the latest technology, trained, equipped with trouble-free weapons, and ready to fulfill any order by the Supreme Commander-in-Chief in order to protect our state and citizens. This would be a good decision. Therefore, we are ready and waiting for your order. So Kadyrov again just trying to put himself in the light, and it seems like there's this battle between Prigozhin and Kadyrov to make themselves look the best, to then Putin down from there. And whether this is just support for their individual units, financially, politically, however, there's, I know that Kadyrov and Prigozhin say that they have mended. Now, maybe this is part of the game as well, but Kadyrov saying that he could go in and fix the issues that have been happening in there. Now, there's also been this video released here of telling people in Ukraine and online to be quiet, and it's down the whole list of the loose lips sink ships of giving out information. So this video continues here with basically people telling you to shh, from snipers and soldiers from here. And then from here we see at the end, interestingly, the F-16s. And this was posted by the Ukraine's Ministry of Defense, saying that plans love silence and that there will be no announcement about the beginning. And this is obviously about the upcoming counteroffensive. Now, one interesting thing about this was actually then broadcast, said, into Crimea on TV, into occupied Crimea. So Ukrainian hackers reportedly hacked into television and launched the broadcast of their video published today, announcing the future counteroffensive of Ukraine. And these videos here of that apparently playing in Crimea. Now, there's been a lot of speculation and reports that the armed forces of Ukraine captured 2 territories in the Zaporizhzhia region. This is actually coming from Russian accounts, saying that they got about 400 metres. But let's have a look at exactly where this is. So it's saying in these 2 regions here. And if we come down onto the deep state, where we are looking is in this region here. So it's this village and this village here, and pushed 400 metres in. But what we do know is these areas are also heavily defended. So where we're looking is where I've put this red circle is up in this region here. Now this isn't perfectly across, but you can see the amount of defence that fall down behind here as well. And if they were to move anyway to the further west, how much more defence there is as well. But that it is lighter armed here than some other areas. But we do know there are still defences here, saying that these 2 have fallen. But by the end of the day, more Russian accounts were saying that they were taken and then they have retaken these. So we don't really know. We have seen attacks in this direction before, with success and no success as well in both ways. So what actually happened there? Well, we'll wait for the other maps to update and go from there, because as well, we're getting Ukrainian gains from Russian sources. So it's very difficult to know exactly what is happening. But there was video released that does seem to show a number of Ukrainian vehicles damaged in the attack as well. And I can't show the full video from here as well. Rybar has released a Marinka map here, and we have talked about that over the last couple of days. There's been a lot of claims that Marinka is getting more and more cleared. So whereabouts are we actually looking? If we zoom out, we're just looking in this region here. So let's zoom in to get a decent look. So Marinka here compared to Rybar. Now, what difference is this showing? Nothing really that major. It actually looks very, very similar. Maybe a little bit more in the centre, because if we look at the centre here, it's claiming maybe 1 road up, which would be this here. So they're talking a couple more roads, but in somewhere like that, probably negligible, as the whole region has just been flattened. Actually having a defined front line there, it'd be very, very difficult. But have saying that they are making gains there, but that Ukraine have pushed on their south flank as well, showing that they are pushing to the east, but in the centre. We also have more footage of a Bradley cammed up with this female standing next to it, and this Bradley vehicle here has the cross of the counteroffensive here, is cammed up, is loaded, ready to rock and roll. Now, where is this? Well, no one would know. This goes into keeping your mouth shut of where it is, but we will eventually start seeing these in combat. Did we see one last time? And many people did claim that it was, but a lot of people saying no, that was actually just a Danish M113 with a different cannon to usual. So I'm not convinced that we've seen any Bradleys actually in combat yet, but at some point we will have to see these in combat. Now as well, last night, for many nights in a row, there were mass air attacks again with air defence active over Kiev and other areas around Ukraine. And since people have started getting called out and charged for releasing videos of these strikes coming in and air defence going out, there's really no footage coming out. So we don't know the effect on these strikes. We don't know if they're getting shot down. We don't really know. We only have claims that some have hit and that some have been shot down. So we don't really know the effects. Olaf Scholz as well, the Chancellor of Germany, has reacted to anti-war and pro-Putin protesters in Berlin. And to be honest, if you close your eyes and hear angry German getting yelled through a microphone, sometimes it gives you a different image. But this is this here. So he says the warmonger Putin has invaded Ukraine with 200,000 soldiers. And from here you will see these protesters, the demonstrators here as well, who are against Germany in supporting Ukraine and are on the Russian side of this, and that he's risking his own citizens for his dream and to conquer Ukraine, and has others, and you start referring to Germany, Poland, areas like these, which Germany has, of course, a history with. That as Europeans, they won't allow it to happen. So I think something interesting in this that I did say that I think needs to be put out is this is just people saying these are pro-Putin people. Now, there are a lot of people who are anti-war but not pro-Putin. Now, if you oppose this war in anything other than, giving everything to Ukraine and, fighting back and taking everything, then you are labelled pro-Putin, pro-Russia. So the labels, like everything in the modern landscape, is if you don't support something 1,000,000%, no matter what, you are on the wrong side of this. And I can see why people say that if you don't call out the oppressor, then you're on the side of the oppressor. You can be anti-war and not pro-Putin. Now, does that get more complex when you look into the sort of period where Scholz is? Yes. But if you just say, I don't think war's a good thing, well, you can say that and not be pro-Putin. I know people who say war is terrible, but Putin's a prick. So that's, yeah. So Scholz throughout this has really shown how much support he has for Ukraine as well. And in the beginning, many people were calling out Scholz, many people were calling out Germany, although Germany, I believe, is the second biggest supplier singly of arms to Ukraine and, in NATO, EU as well. But Scholz has, he was the one that first did the tanks, part of the fighter jet coalition, things like that. So I think it's a bit unfair, even if it was slow on the take-up. Then he says they don't know how many have sacrificed their life from Russia, but it could be from 100 to 150,000, which is interesting because the Ukrainian numbers sit well above 200. The official numbers from like the BBC and whatever who do go through papers, Instagram posts, whatever, are sitting around mid-20,000s. Thank you very much for watching this. I'm going to have to make a lot of cuts in this because I fucked up a lot. Didn't record something, so it's going to be pieced. But thank you so much. If you'd like to support me, links down below. Never feel obliged. So look after yourselves, and I'll speak to you tomorrow. Okay, thank you.